They're working on several of them. They're crashing. They have a backup video. So at least they'll be able to show the start of their worlds and then when it crashes, you just tab over the video. Right. And exciting. And we're prepared.
Yeah.
It's nice that we've done this a few times now as well.
Yeah. Seems like we're more prepared than the teams last year.
Yeah, just so it's over and agree. Also, the teams last year were young all of us.
True. True.
They played. They didn't show us some like stuff.
The team makes sense. It's like everyone starts off playing long device and we gradually get into the crazy rhythms of things.
It's a little bit of a smoother start for us as James especially. But for us for this.
It's like an answer.
They can also play a bit better. Although maybe better in round 1, but in round 2 they can't inversely help each other, which is kind of round 3 is getting like a backpack or something and stuff.
You know what? I want to do my track in round 3. That's just like
No, yeah, they're fine. They're fine.
my team will tell you otherwise. Whole team, not
They are. I never had to use them in BBW, but outside of BBW,
I've never used them. Oh, they're fun.
I've used them outside of BBW. It's like, I guess under like
You use them in other games. I like the concept of like drivers, but I mean, they are a pain to like seemingly, from what I've heard, I don't know, there's more than a lot of members.
Because like for the cave, we used 5 factors actually, and it was
Oh.
once everything's set up, it's not bad. You just have to like be prepared for the device index to randomly change. And as long as you have flexible enough code that it will just like switch over seamlessly. Yeah, well, if you were to take a screenshot of that radius and slide it.
Check, mic 1 2.
You know how to,
This one is also dead.
that's why we're checking that.
Alright. They each took 2 double A's. Alright, I'm gonna go get a bunch more batteries because we have 3 dead mice.
Oh, nice.
Check mic. Mic.
Dave Mo Station Center.
All right, good morning. Woo! We are here, round one finals. Welcome to the odd teams this morning. And this will be just a heads up, the pattern, like, half in the morning, half in the afternoon. We're gonna try to keep it somewhat balanced so that you're not always, in the morning crew or the afternoon crew. But with that, let's do quick attendance.
All right, reverse order today. Team 13. Team 11. Is that all five? Wait, so is that all five?
No.
No. Who's missing on team 11? Varun. Okay. All right. Team 9. Who's missing on team 9? Wait, who is it? I can't hear you. I'm sorry. What? Thank you. Team 7. All right, cool. Team 5. Nice. Team 3. That's all 5. And team 1. Cool. Thank you.
All right, so this morning will be very similar to what interim was. You'll get up, show your world. If the world isn't working, we'll go to the video. And Mo and I will talk about how it's working. If you want to be bold, you're welcome to invite us up into the headset. Little warning, this is a pattern that's going to become a little less optional in the future. We're going to be moving really quickly to the idea of bringing guests in. But round one, we're a little easier on that constraint. So if you want to be the one showing it off, we're okay with that. But it is nice to get into the feel of bringing guests in, seeing how they work in your world. But with that, I guess the other quick thing, let's bring up this. This spreadsheet is still active, so it's there collecting the feedback in the class. So if you want to add comments, it's the same spreadsheet. So when you go to pull the feedback as a team, just look at the timestamps. So the ones from last week are from last week. The ones from today, obviously, for final feedback. And producers, take notes. Even though you're basically done with this assignment, this feedback is still part of how we want you to think about things. The way we frame this is, if you had another week, what might you do? Where might you focus things? For all the work you're doing, we are building to a festival at the end of the semester. And round one, we often have a few round one worlds in festival. And in that space, you might want to go back to your notes and see where was the world, what are things we might shift. So you will have discussions after class and go through the notes again and sort of sort through them. You won't be, like I said, implementing them just yet, but we are still going through the pattern of taking that feedback, thinking about that feedback, and where does it fit in with the scope of your work. All right, with all that, which team are we going with first?
Team 13.
Right, let's do it. If I see a bug, don't do that.
You can try for 3 times if you can. We'll try.
All right.
Yeah, we won't let you flounder around. But yeah, there is a way around that game, so don't worry about that. Maybe you can outsmart the bug. Right.
Ferris, can you put up the call? Never mind.
Maybe it's a feature.
Put you right around.
Yeah, disclaimer again, we have some explicit content in terms of
And then I
language.
just want to hit the menu button.
So if anyone wants to leave right now, please leave. But yeah.
This one right here. I probably should just. Yeah, okay, there. All at the bottom right. The grid. Bring that up right? Yeah. And then Team 13 round 1.
All right, let's do this.
missed that mandatory meeting yesterday. Some shit. I mean, hell of a trouble, man. That boredom motherfucker been looking for me all morning. Get me the fuck out of here before he gets my ass, man. You feel me? Shit. You see me? Right here? Okay. Now press that button to get that door open, man. I can't wait. Fucking finally, man. All right, let's go. Let's get that door. Let's lift that door. Oh shit, here comes another one. You see that alarm shit or something? You get that going?
We're gonna have some fun tonight.
Yo, Rabbit, I missed that mandatory meeting yesterday or some shit. Fucking finally, man. All right, let's go.
This is awesome.
Back yourself. Oh shit, here comes another one. You see that alarm shit or something? You get that going? Try another book. Let's lift that door. Let's get that bridge. Let's get that bridge.
Hey, Jay, we're gonna have some fun.
Yo, Rabbit. Finally, man. All right, let's go. Oh shit, here comes another one. Let's get that bridge. Let's get that bridge, man.
Okay. Yeah, so that's not your fault. That's not your fault.
Have some fun.
You can either
Yo,
lower that
Rabbit,
bridge
I
ahead of
missed that
time, or we
mandatory
can
meeting
help
yesterday.
you.
Some shit.
It's,
I mean, hell of a trouble.
that one's not your fault.
Finally, man. All right, let's go. Let's lift that door.
Yourself.
Get that door. Lift that door, man.
Yeah, that's intentional. This is not a
Lift that door.
So I'm gonna solve a puzzle while they're trying to kill me?
Lift that door, man.
Like breaking my brain.
Get that door. Get that door. Lift that door. Lift that door, man.
Alright. Got it trapped.
Let's get that door.
Stuck. Let's go.
Back yourself.
Oh shit, here comes another one.
Hey, Jay.
Let's get that bridge. Let's get that bridge, man.
Let's get back yourself. I got
Run
you.
for it. Go, go, go.
That's fine. See real basic, man. All right, let's get the fuck out of here. Yo, Rabbit, I missed that mandatory meeting yesterday or some shit. I mean, hell of a trouble, man. That
was very pro, that's all I have to say.
You're better than some of our play testers. Congratulations.
All right. No, like the thinking about to interim, you made a lot of like big choices. Like now, like before, it was a little bit in front of me. You've got it's very much surrounding me. Like in VR, I felt like the need to like just move and pay attention. So I think you're using the medium really well. Like even though it's sort of like a small scale, like toy-like space, it really put me in sort of like in this experience, in this like lifting gates. I felt very much like I knew what to do, could do what I needed to do, and like it was very like comfortable in terms of like reaching all this stuff. There's some glitches, like the handles were flying off a little bit. There's some like moments where I wasn't too sure of like how it was exactly going to work, but definitely the form factor and the structure of this was just working really well for me. Like the beginning, it seemed like paying attention, thinking about indirect control. Like there's a lot of like, yes, like how do you want me to like start? Like the giant red button. In fact, a lot of stuff was, I didn't need some of the extra guidance you put in there. I think you had some voiceover, you had some stuff saying, hey, do this. And I was sort of like a few steps ahead, like I know I should do that because there's a big red button. What else am I going to do? It's an interesting balance in worlds where some of your guests might be a little more cautious. And they might be like, I don't know what to do, and I need the world to sort of guide me a little bit. And some other guests might be like, you give me a button, I'm going to push a button. So that balance of how much is your guest going to pick up on your interface and just run with it versus sort of be like, I see things, but I'm going to wait for the world to give me the input is just a thing to watch for. But I really like your choices of all those things. Like I think the moment I liked the most was I was sort of focused on the beginning, sort of going through that, and I run into one of the guards, and I die, and my reaction was sort of like, I'm not sure what I should do here. Like, how do I distract him? I think at that moment was the first time I noticed like the big, in a case of emergency, break the glass, and it was this, I wasn't sure if that was the right thing to do. It was this like little moment of experimentation, and it seemed to be exactly what I should do. Like it was, the world sort of led me to this place where I had a problem, gave me the solution, but didn't tell me it was a solution, and let me discover it on my own, and I really like that. Like it's a really good moment of giving the guest that agency of, I'm now problem solving. You've given me basically the tools and the problem, but it's my job to put them together and solve it. And that felt really good. Definitely some things, the voiceover, and I think it's a little bit just like the way the audio in the room is a bit, but it was a lot of voiceover, and it ended up being background noise for me. So the character talking, it gave the character some personality, but at the end of the day, I stopped listening. I was like, sort of like, it was hard to tell if it was instruction and all that stuff. It did a little bit of like giving me a sense of urgency, like, hey, I should move faster, and things like that. And there were some moments of like, especially that first moment where the guard broke the door and got closer, that really helped escalate the interest curve and like felt like, oh, it's not just running through the maze, it's I have to go fast. I have to do these things. And so the whole atmosphere sort of like helped raise that. The ending, I like the hint of I could do it early, sort of like de-escalated the ending for me a little bit. It's sort of like if in the moment I'm being chased by the guard, I was trying to figure that out, it would be insane. Like I think that's, like we talk about interest curve, like the hypothetical interest curve is really good. It's like, oh, we get to the end, we have to do this like extra thing that's even harder under extra time pressure. My guess is if I really did that in the moment, it would be, it wouldn't be an exciting high point, it would be a frustrating low point. But getting it all done, there was some satisfaction in being like, okay, I've got it set up, and I get to watch the plan happen. So the prepping it worked out pretty well for the experience. And with that, it was a nice, complete experience. Like I felt the beginning I need to get out. I felt like I helped the character get through, and the end, I felt that success. So.
Yeah, I think it was fun watching Dave do that and learning. And you guys did a really good job of setting up expectations and then following through on it. I just want to emphasize, you know, not in a typical user interface for this game, but your UI design was really, really good. It was kind of obvious what to do. And like Dave said, I think in the future, I would encourage you, rather than to being heavy-handed with the UI, take an initial guess of what you think of how to lead your guests, and then play test it. And you can always make things more obvious if you need to. And I think that moment with the alarm worked really well, because I felt like that alarm is how to do this, but you staged it well, right? Like it became visible at the right time. I'm sure almost that was intentional. the concept art kind of production art is a really good trend that you guys utilized well. You have these beautiful drawings of these characters. We get to know the characters. We're reading instructions at the same time. This is a really common way in AAA games even to scope a lot of cutscenes now and menus by letting artists do their thing and putting beautiful artwork in there. That's of course lower scope, but just as engaging and beautiful to look at. So I really like that touch. And the contrast in the character design between Rabbit and the guards worked really well. Like there was some clear art direction there and good contrast between those characters. So I think, yeah, overall, really good iteration from last week to this week. And I think you guys made good decisions along the way.
And one comment about the idea of the UI and how to think about it. What I really liked was you built a world that felt it was supportive of me learning. So I played that 5 times. So there was a sort of a loop you built into this, which is try, fail, retry, and it felt very intentional. It felt like this is a world where I'm going to fail, but it's okay, and I get to retry. And I was getting into rhythm where the beginning at first was hard, and I figured it out, and then I had those moves down, and now I'm working on this part, and I liked that. And it's always really good to be thinking about how will the guest learn what they need to do, and in some sense there's 2 big strategies. One is they're going to play it once, and so they need to learn it progressively through that single playthrough. And your experience is, no, they're going to try it a few times, and they're going to learn through that process. But being very thoughtful about how will the guests learn what they need to do is a really important part of the design. And I appreciate the fact that the world supported me learning things, and I felt basically, it made me feel smart that I learned them as opposed to I was told them. So go work on that. All right, good work.
Team 11.
Who is playing your experience? Me? Oh, all right. Sure.
No, I can take. I may swap off with. Okay.
I'm good too. I'm good too.
All right. We're gonna bring Mo in.
I'll start you from here because they're and then they are you do not. Oh yeah. It should be. It's. Well, no, it's on the list and it says echo right there, so just. There you go, you got it. You probably have to close yourself.
Hey, Dad, can you hear me? Catch! Oops.
You try. We'll try once more, then we'll spin.
Hey, Dad, can you hear me? Catch! Oops.
Dad, I'm scared.
We're trapped, Dad. I don't want to get stuck in here. Dad, where are you? We're trapped, Dad. I don't want to get stuck in. Dad, is that you?
Really in the dark now. I don't want to throw the kid, but I feel like that's what I know. Oh, it's not the kid. Whoops. No. Just getting the groove of things, too.
Hey, Dad.
Just watch it. We'll watch it.
Dad, can you hear me? Catch! Oops.
Dad, I'm scared. Dad, I'm scared.
Dad, is that you? You found me. Dad, is that you? Dad, I think I see light over there. I think that's the exit. We made it! You saved us!
All right. So I really enjoyed the start of the piece. I think you guys played that really well. I know you had a lot of complicated backstory and relationship and exposition you wanted to do. and you just kind of let the relationship speak for itself. It's a dad and a son, and you're introducing it and kind of telling us what to do at the same time. And and then the intro into the world is quite interesting too, because it's very complicated, and that contrasting moment of this over-complex world and how do I make sense of this works really well against going to dark. And that whole thing worked really well, and I enjoyed quite a bit. It still isn't clear quite what the things are I'm picking up. They looked kind of like speakers, but they weren't really emitting any noise. And in general, maybe sound could have felt like more of an element. What's that? Yeah, okay, sure. And you know, the thing about building a world and it crashing, we've all been there. This is what it's like to work with technology. Imagine releasing the newest Windows or iMac and having it crash in a press conference. Like, it's just part of the business, right? So, you know, and as you learn to do this, you'll learn to mitigate risk a little bit more and make some decisions that will allow you to be a little in a safer zone. I was just starting to get into a groove of the interaction. It started to click with me, just like navigating the space, picking the thing up, throwing it well, throwing it long enough, throwing it to an area where I could see more. Just starting to get into a groove of things. So I think that kind of user experience felt really good to me, and it felt in watching the video that it probably was the right length of an experience. That as I got better at it, you didn't also overstay your welcome as well. So I think that was working really well. It wasn't totally clear though, like the mechanic of trying to navigate around obstacles seemed to be like the main obstacle in my, like the main mechanic here was to throw the thing, see where the obstacles were, and try to walk around it. And I think maybe visualizing that a little bit clearer for a moment would really help that. Because I could kind of see where things were, but in the end, I was relying more on just kind of like using the navigational stick, hitting stuff, moving around it. And you clearly wanted it to be more about the visualization of it. Also, scope would be added, but more sound in terms of letting me know, like, am I on a good path or on a bad path would be an option too. So, you know, spatializing sound.
Yeah, no, I mean, I want to applaud you for trying something really hard and doing it really well in 2 weeks. Like the idea of using the visualization of audio to help someone navigate a dark space is like a really cool idea and also a really hard idea, and you basically have it working. The watching it, like it's definitely like, it was a little hard to tell. I think watching it on a big flat screen feels like it doesn't quite do it justice, because I'm imagining, I guess this is a question for you, like how does it feel to go from sort of blackness to this visual effect? And how does that sort of match with your sense of the 3D space? Because it's very flat, right, when we watch it on a screen. But I'm guessing the VR does give you much more a sense of 3D.
Sure,
in it.
I think it's grounded well. I think at times, you know, maybe a lighter critique would be at times the lines and the shaders you use, it probably would be better for the experience to visualize more at times, right? Because at times it just felt too abstract. And I think that abstract feeling kind of works for you, but it also works against you in terms of being able to see the space.
But to Mo, what you're talking about, which is this world is about trying to navigate a three-dimensional space where like you're colliding with things. You're trying to like walk around obstacles to get out. Welcome to like things that are super hard in VR. Like in VR, those obstacles don't really exist. I'm not going to bump into things. I'm not going to get hurt. I'm not going to bump my head. So in some sense, the entire like virtual challenge of this, like the fantasy that the guest is walking into, you're trying to create something that VR can simulate, but there's a very tactile reality to if I was really there that I'd be working with. And then you bring another layer on top of this, which is like this idea of visualizing sound, which is something that is very foreign to how we think about stuff. And it is like it's the kind of thing where I would imagine like really making this a deep, amazing experience would be months of work. In terms of like getting to those little pieces of what is the level design of this? Like what is the right scale so that I feel like I'm, in a tight space, but my head doesn't feel like my head's gonna bump through the ceiling. How do you simulate the idea of bumping into an invisible object such that I know it's there and I know to go around it, and I need to use the sound idea to like navigate it? What does it even mean to navigate this space? Is it, like as Mo said, are there strategies that kind of work against the visualization, or do you work with that? I guess all the stuff you've done has done a great job of getting to those questions and like really like highlighting how interesting the mechanic is, and then how you might use it to go deeper. I think you made some great scope choices. I think the simplicity of the level works well. You can sort of tell the space feels like a cluttered, difficult space. I agree with the audio. I was wondering, like watching it, are we throwing bells? Okay. Gotcha. So there is an idea of world building. I think that's another thing that I was trying to figure out watching this. The ending tells the story that we were trapped, and we sort of rescued ourselves. The beginning tells a story of like, hey, like here's how to like navigate the space. So I think the world building would be something I'd also look at, is like, what is the story here? Are we trapped, or are we just like on a little adventure and things like that? And with that, the boy, our kid, kind of like we lose him a little bit in the world as a presence. And I think on iteration, you have two big challenges, which is how do you make the mechanic feel like the way you want it to feel, make it more playable, and then also like how do you bring the story up a little more? But overall, I think it was you went for something really bold and got a lot of it working in an impressive way.
Yeah, I think the boy feels a little bit unresolved. He's kind of halfway there. You kind of grab him. There was an awkward moment where I misinterpreted grabbing him with grabbing one of these beacons. That's fine, but again, grabbing probably isn't the right verb there, and I think you could rethink how to use him along the way, and kind of reinforce this kind of protection relationship.
He's supposed to have some dialogues, like it's supposed to tell you, oh, we're running out of time.
Yeah, but that's another factor, that I had this time bar kind of following me.
No, it's supposed to be
in front of me. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Time is a go-to mechanic to like make things more intense. You may not need it. You may not need it for this piece. And I think, to Dave's point, if you focus more on the level design and trying to get through these obstacles, and what makes getting through those obstacles fun, and discovering that is probably a better route if you had another week, another 6 months, another year.
But I think
overall,
it
is like an impressive prototype for a 2-week assignment.
Really good work.
Team 9.
All right. First off, I want to say like the art and the field sport is just kind of awesome. I love the beginning, like the hand-drawn art of the fish. I will admit, like I think there was some stuff about this, like in terms of like the pictures at the beginning that was trying to tell a story or like give a sense of it. I didn't get it. Like I think it was a challenge to sort of see the beginning and understand and get that in that moment. But one of the things I really love about what you're trying to do here is you had no words in this world, right? This was a world where it was sort of like mysterious, and it was a space, and you're going for kind of like a dreamlike space, right? And like that mystery is something that's really cool to see. There are some moments, I love the design of like the background and like the fish, and there's like, I could see moments where you could like sort of like capture a screenshot, and it just has just an interesting composition of the colors. Like the fish are sort of this, these warm reds. The background are these cool blues. Like the geometry of the space is like creating this interesting sort of like kind of city-like space behind us. And it just, I think the imagery was going in a place that I really appreciated. I definitely was confused for a lot of this about like what are we doing and like what are we trying to sort of discover here. And like that's sort of where mystery like runs into challenges for an experience. Like if it's too mysterious, it's too sort of abstract, as a guest, I'm looking for something. I'm looking for what do I do? And in some sense, like that's a really great thing to have. You have a guest who wants things to happen, wants to like discover things. And I will say, watching this, early on, there are like these other orbs, like the green, the red, and the yellow ones sort of in the distance. And for majority of this, I was like, oh my God, just go to those orbs. Like go to those other, like the ones that look different. And my as a sort of like watching this thing about what I would do, it's like I'm looking for what is different here? Like where is the change? And like there's something to sort of appreciate about like how the guests will experience the world. They're looking for a plan, a goal, something they can do. And the sort of like the yellow orbs, like if I'm thinking about like how I would do this, like I'd probably go to one of like those first like bright yellow orbs and say, what is this? What happens? I sort of like maybe go after the fish and be like, what do I do with the fish? And it feels like the answer to those two things are, it's a little like they're just sort of there. The fish come to the guest. Actually, talk to me a little bit about how do the fish work? Like there's moments where the fish came right into your personal space, and they're sort of like they're there, and they're clearly changing their behavior from swimming around to they're now right there. What triggers that? How does that? Okay, so I go and I touch one, I grab one, and then they come to me. Is it just a thing I can do, or is there like a goal for me to like attract the fish and work with the fish? Good. Okay, so the world is, my goal is to sort of like attract the fish. Because I remember at Interim, like this is sort of like bringing the fish to me and like, sort of like helping me kind of like almost become friends with the fish. Like they're afraid of me, and now I'm trying to bring them. Watching it, like I got the sense that they were like coming closer, but it was really hard to tell progress. Like what it meant to go from they are afraid of me to they're now, like I'm now friends with them. And I think that's one of the things like I was sort of writing down in my notes, like the question for me was, what is progress in this world? Like what is I'm at the beginning, now something has changed, and now I'm in this state. Now something else has changed, I'm in this state. And that was definitely something I was like wondering and like looking for. And that's where like, when you grab the other colored ones and put them in that like device down at the bottom, like really clear state change, right? You look down, there's slots for those orbs. You put one in, it changes state. And at that moment, like my guess is everyone in the room watching was like, oh yeah, the next thing to do is get the next orb, put it down there. And you can sort of like really feel that sense of now there's a plan, now there's a thing to do that has sort of clarity to it, and which set up like a moment of like, what is the payoff of when we get there? Now there wasn't too much change there, but it really illustrated how much the guest is looking for guidance and those things. And like I said, I think that the space you built really drew me in and watching it, but I was looking more for what are the things the space wants me to do.
Yeah, I thought this world was really captivating and kind of demonstrated probably how talented you guys are. I think what it's missing is we have these activities, but why are we doing them? And what, instead of saying like, thinking about this in terms of what is the goal of the piece, well, the goal of the piece might be to feed these fish or to do these, to put these orbs in this thing at the bottom. Instead of thinking of it like that, is what is the higher level goal? What is going to guide you guys to make good decisions along the way of what this experience should be? Is the goal of the piece to be relaxing and calm, meditative? Is it supposed to be challenging, right? And it felt a little disjointed in that way, so that you had these very kind of disparate things that I was doing as a guest. Maybe I'm feeding fish, maybe I'm collecting orbs, maybe I'm swimming to the bottom of this thing. But how is that working towards this higher goal of what you want that guest experience to be?
Yeah, I know there's
I think you can unmute that.
Okay, I just want to explain. I know there's a huge lag between two kinds of experience, such from the players to attract fish and become the friend of fish, and collecting orbs and put it into the altar on the bottom. That's the altar. The problem is that we have encountered serious circumstances last night. We cannot build our world correctly, so it takes us for about 2 hours to figure it out. But I need to thank Ferris helped me to do that. Yeah. But that's the problem, is that we cost a lot of time to finish our world. So there's a huge lag between these two kind of experience. Yeah.
And these type of things, of course, happen. And you guys will get better at this as the semester goes on. It's kind of one of the fun things to watch.
Yeah, I can tell you the
progression
design
of BVW. But the sooner you guys can decide, and this is a hard thing to do in any sort of creative process, is to like understand what you're building. The sooner you can get to that, the more you can start designing, prototyping, implementing towards that goal, so that you know what's important. Like minimally, we'll have this, and then you can expand to nice to haves. And again, it becomes a little bit about risk mitigation and less about like completion, because to be honest, we never complete anything in the world we live in, right? Like the saying at Disney is, we don't finish our films, we just release them, right?
Yeah.
And you'll get used to that, right? But it is a hard thing to get used to.
Yeah, and I think you put together a space and an environment where I wanted to go in there and see what it was like. I mean, even just like seeing the contrast of the fish swimming around and then coming up really close. Like I think you create a few like really strong VR moments. I think one thing to really appreciate is this world is very VR. Like you're swimming through space, you're sort of like surrounded by these things coming in and out. And just like that, creating that space was a really good choice. And like, you know, when we talk about iteration, like then how do you find the thing that the guests want to do in that space is a question sometimes you can't answer until you've built the space. And it's a thing to appreciate about the process is like that balance between we have this idea that we want to build, but then we have a reality that we've built, and how do you sort of like find those things? And the truth is, it's a combination of both. We have a vision of where we're going, but we have a thing we've built, and we can now reflect on it. And so I think you guys made some really nice choices. Like it's clear, like time, like you had more ideas you wanted to put in, but what you have is a really great start. So good work.
Team 7.
Yeah, Team 7.
Dave or Mo?
Either. Whichever you want to go. Yeah, we have continuous movement, so we need someone who is not sensitive to motion sick. Yeah, great.
enough time to protect yourself.
Right. I'll admit, I think I was expecting a different world. So I'm intrigued. Alright, whoa, I got a wall here with instructions. Tilt the stick to control your movement, turn your body to control your sight. Look around. I'm going to move forward. Pat Franklin, follow you. Lead Franklin to the light. Sounds like we might find a metaphor for death here. I don't know. Pull these two buttons at the same time to activate the shield. Do it now. Where are we? Like, kind of like, oh, are we doing a grip thing here? Oh, there it is. I got a shield. Alright. And then pull the shield to reflect bullet shot by the monster, reflect the bullets with the shield for the monster. Like that's, we do shields. Alright. And then I'm going to push the button. Okay. Now we're working. Alright, okay. Alright, perfect.
Pat Franklin, he will follow you.
Oh, a little vibration. That's nice. Wait, you still scared? Okay. All right. Look at that. Mental state change. She's happy. Let's do this. Good sweat? Yeah. All right. Now I saw the gentleman, this guy here.
Love the show. Protect yourself.
Okay, is he scared now? Yeah. You can do this. Walk over. Okay. You know, they can try to kill you. Till I get here. I feel like it's a bootstrap. We're
Yeah, so actually our little Franklin just create a big shield for you to protect both of you here. So you should see the animation if you stand behind the button, but you just move too quickly in front of the button, so.
Let's go this way.
All right. Yeah, so back at Interim, we were like the foggy forest and guiding this creature. Now we've got context, which I sort of, like threw me at the beginning, because I knew your world, but it's like trying to like piece together. But the context now is we are in a spaceship, and we are helping, we know about Franklin. There's a little bit of like, if I'm digging really into this backstory, I've got a lot of questions. But the truth is, the experience I went through, I understood a lot of it. Like you gave me some introduction at the beginning. One thing that was really nice was you let me sort of self-pace the instruction. Like I could sort of read it and absorb it. And yeah, that, especially the moment with the shield, like this is when we sort of talk about how does the guest learn things, understand things. You gave me these instructions and I tried it. In my head, I was like, did the team remember to like let me activate it in this moment? And I tried it, it turned on, and I had a lot of confidence in that moment. Like, what am I going to do? Like, there's one little piece missing, which was the petting of Franklin, like, and how that worked. But I was ready. Like, it wasn't like I needed to have that as a tutorial, but I was in my head, that was the one little piece of like, how would this work? And then once I get out, it's answered immediately. Like, I get to walk up to Franklin, and you give me a safe moment to sort of like pet him. And in terms of like the experience, the controller is vibrating. So I actually get a little bit of haptic feedback that I'm petting him. I basically trust that it's working. I think I had an experience where it's like, it was taking longer than I expected, and there was really nothing was really changing. And I was wondering, like, am I done? So like a little tweak on playtest would be, give me a sense of progress, and so I know where we are in that. But once we get that going, like he's following me, I have a shield. I've been told the shield, what to do with it, and like we get to that first monster, and it starts like I'm ready for this world, and I think you did a great job of setting that up and giving me a sense of the character that I'm protecting, that they're going to follow me, and all those things. And honestly, like experiencing the world, it was fun. Like the challenge of using the shield to reflect back. And in particular, like if the challenge had just been, oh, there are enemies, and you need to like reflect the rockets back to destroy them, it would have been one thing. But that wasn't this world. This world is, you have to protect Franklin. And so a lot of the drama of this world was the reality of that character and how he wasn't interested at all in being safe and being protected. He was wandering off, making my life really difficult. And there was something like, that character is just, a relatively simple design. And the AI for the character is pretty simple. Like, it's not like there's a lot of animations and it's emoting, all this stuff, but just the behavior of sort of disobeying almost and doing this thing and having consequences really did a lot for me in the experience, thinking of it as a character that I had to work with and understand. And I was sort of like projecting personality into that. And so it's a good example of just the simplicity and the clarity of your world, that these monsters are trying to hurt this character, I'm trying to protect the character, and there are behaviors happening that aren't like amazingly deep, but match those relationships that put me in a situation where I've got a problem to solve, and it sort of connects things together that was working really well. I like the escalation of your world, like we go from 1 to 2, and like managing that and like how that works out. I like the fact that the stakes were pretty low. Like the world is mysterious and sort of ominous, but can Franklin really get hurt and die? My guess in the world was no.
No.
But it didn't matter. Like I sort of felt every little rocket hit on him. Like I could have seen, like if we were iterating this, like to put more in, like to have those moments have sort of increasing stakes. Possibly just implying that if it gets too bad, you might fail. But the circumstances worked really well. And then like getting to the end, I mean, I've played a lot of video games, so I kind of like had like Spidey sense going off me and like, yeah, like we're at the end, but are we? And I really liked the fact that you put that in and you had this blast moment, because the reason why I sort of called it out when I was playing was if it was just guiding Franklin to the end at that moment, it was sort of like an interesting end point with the final fight, but then sort of a slow, kind of like the ending wouldn't have paid off as much. But you gave this extra new moment where you gave me agency, you gave me, I caused it, like I tapped it, they appeared, and it's this really nice big spike of excitement. The tweak is I kind of missed the reality of the moment. I missed that it was this nice reversal where Franklin sort of like does this thing. That's sort of what happens, right?
Yeah.
Oh, we can sort of see it in. Yeah, and this is like I love the idea and like even like the simple execution. Watching it, it's a really great way to like bring this character and have change, and which is a nice thing to think about story is you now have not just I helped a character and we succeeded. The character I helped actually changed. Like the character went from being afraid and being helpless to having the strength to defend me. And so you've got this extra nice little emotional thing. I mean, I think the iteration would be how do you make that moment hard to miss? And it's definitely a challenge with VR and when you have guests who have, basically VR is a uncontrollable camera, right? My head is the camera where I'm looking is now the unpredictable element, and having moments where you want the guests to see it is an especially challenging part of VR, but I loved the whole arc of this.
Yeah, I want to talk about that end moment as well. Something we call plot equity, which is basically investing or foreshadowing something with a payoff, knowing it's going to pay off later. So if you think of like Jurassic Park, the original one, the ending, the T-Rex shows up at the end, spoiler alert, and saves the day. That only works because we had like a half hour of interaction with this T-Rex earlier in the movie. So if you could think of a way to foreshadow what Franklin might do or make that part of the beginning of the story, again, if we had more time to work on this, you know, then there's more of an expectation while still surprising the audience with that payoff. Because I think it is a really nice moment. I think one of the things that works really well about what you built is this. It's not just Franklin, it's like Dave and Franklin. And it was kind of fun to watch Dave and Franklin. I think you guys are a team now, and you should get some sort of like TV show together and all of that.
We workshop it.
So like you know, that kind of speaks to how many things you guys did really well in the world. So Dave also alluded to maybe the backstory and questions there. And I think that's fine that to have questions because it's a short piece and we don't have that much time to experience it. But the real question is how does that connect in what you've built and making decisions of what you built? It kind of felt like that you had this alien planet, but there were very kind of like human ground there, like Earth, felt like Earth with Earth trees there. So there was some disconnect in the world building aspects of this. That felt very different from the robots that are attacking us, the sound design. And so if you just expand more on the world building of like where does this take place and what, like how did we get here? Why are we here? Why does this world look the way it is? How did it evolve? And just answering some of those world building questions. You start to build out that backstory, but that will inform your artistic decisions of content creation along the way, if that makes sense, okay?
But overall, I think you made some really good scope choices. You kept things pretty simple. and like the world feels consistent and believable. I think there's definitely like I said, I'm right now at a sort of shallow level of like what is the world to me, and I think that there's depth that you could like bring out to make it connect better. But just like the simplicity of the models and the characters, I think was a good choice. I definitely, like thinking back, I wanted, I think, more sound effects in this, but at the same time, like the visuals and all this stuff, I was hearing things in my head that weren't even there because the actions were so clear. So I think this world also had like a lot of really good clarity of what was happening. And so like at the end of the day, I was able to go through it all. And I think all of my reactions and all my questions were sort of what the world wanted me to do, which felt very satisfying being a guest in it. So overall, good work.
Thank you.
Team 5.
Oh, the earthquake one with the flooding water.
Yeah, so you guys are yourselves all.
Overflow, if you will.
I will overflow. Yep.
There's an instruction and
Yeah, no, he'll hit play, so he can start on his own and so you go with the instructions.
I mean, sure, yeah, reset the position.
right here. Yep. Okay. Hold, sign, press button. Hold, slide, sign trigger, and trigger to grab items. Okay. So I'm going to test that out by pressing play. And that seems to work. Nope. Yes. All right, seems like I'm at my job, just chilling. Gonna drink some coffee.
Yes, I know. I will attend your birthday party, honey. I'll go back home as soon as possible. I promise you.
He's dropping on me.
Yeah,
here.
I love you too. What is happening? Help! Help! Is anyone here? Something went wrong with the water tank. There was an explosion. And I can feel water all around my feet. It's so dark. Hello? Anyone? Hello? Emergency power, please. Oh, finally. Oh no, wait. One water tank exploded. The water is flooding out. Call the police. Emergency detected. Firefighter and police will arrive in 1 minute. I can't open the gate to leave. There must be something wrong. The water level increases too fast. There's not enough time waiting. I'm gonna die. We need to slow down the flow rate. That's the only solution. Try to find the valve. It must be around you. Be careful of the tank's water pressure. The tank's going to explode when it goes over the limit.
Do I want to do this? Yes. Okay, now.
You need to hold it.
Reduce the blue tank's pressure. It could explode.
The electricity is off.
The red tank's water pressure is going over the limit. No, most of the room is filled with water. There's no time. Hey, are you okay there? Yes, yes. You're alive. Thank you for everything you did.
There's a reference video after this.
So my first reaction is, it really feels like I went through something there. Like there was a beginning, and it was very physical, and I think that was a real strength to what you guys did. Like moving around that space felt really good, really physical. I kind of wanted to do it more and more and more. I felt like the experience actually could have been a little bit longer, especially once I got to know that there was like this third thing that I had to keep doing. I wanted to keep challenging myself and kind of like become out of breath, you know, like I think that would be a good state for you guys to leave your guests and like, whoa, I'm out of breath. That was wild, but at least Dave is alive. We saved Dave. Yeah, I think that works well because you guys made a really good decision on the environment. It's kind of like hey guys, keep it down. Kind of exactly the right size. And the interactions felt visible, but out of reach. And so that made the user experience feel really good in the right way. I think you did something really well, which was kind of teach me along the way what these mechanics were. So by the time it got challenging, I knew what to do. It was just a matter of keeping all the plates spinning in the right way. And so that also worked really well. There was a little bit of electricity, that wire, and because, you know, there wasn't a lot of like salient things, and in the actual environment design, I felt like at some point I would interact with that, and I never did. That's fine. But I actually think like if you were going to do more with this, what else could you do? Like what other elements can you throw at this person working in this station, and just to keep raising the stakes more and more. So really nice job.
Yeah, and watching it, just the sound design and the space design like really made the world feel like the stakes are really high. Like just the red light and the alarm. And one of the things I really appreciated was sort of like the balance between things are calm and things are fine. And like, no, things are falling apart. Things are really dangerous. We're in a lot of danger. And there's like, and then you had like in-betweens. It was like, the beginning was this nice, like you brought us in, and you didn't just like have us in a quiet, like nothing's happening world. We were hearing this conversation, which is sort of like, not only is the world like just not, things are fine, but it feels like mundane. It feels like just a normal moment in the day. And then inciting event, like this earthquake happens, things start going really bad, and you can feel it because you have the contrast. So I think you did a great job with like giving a sense of contrast, giving a sense of those consequences. And particularly like you called out like how you learn things. You had an interesting moment of all potentially negative learning in this world, where you have the water coming out, which is awesome. Like it's a nice VR thing. Like it tells a story that water is a big problem, and you have the valve right there. And Mo's like, ooh, water, valve, I'll try to fix it. But the world's like, nope, that doesn't work just yet. And it's done a thing to be aware of when you're creating worlds, that if you present stuff to the guests and they try things, feedback is really important, and they're gonna learn from the feedback. And you almost taught Mo that the valve doesn't do anything for the water. And it's a thing to be watchful of is what is the guest actually learning? And if you have, and just as important to positive feedback, like you do this thing and things change, is negative feedback, which is you do this thing and you didn't do it quite right, and so like you have to wait, or you have to turn it the other direction. And so there's things to be mindful of just in the design, but I think great job of doing a lot of that feedback and that teaching such that Mo knew what was going on. I think the world had on the console instructions as well. Is that right? Yeah. Did you notice that, Mo? There was subtitles at the top for what was being said, but then down below, there were like actual, like, hey, you should do this now instructions. I don't think I noticed that. No. It's a strength of your world that Mo didn't need that. And I think another good thing is just like you designed the moments of interaction to be not just things you could do, but things you understood you should do. And you sort of reinforce that with the dialogue. And so I think there's a lot of good design of like getting the guest to understand what to do. And I think those moments felt really strong too.
Yeah. You know, it just goes back again to kind of simple UI design rules of like, if something's moving or something glowing or something flashing, people are going to look at it and be like, there's something to do over here. So instead of like the whole room flashing, maybe there's a light that causes the whole room to strobe red, but draws me there to that power switch more. So, you know, if you treat it kind of like a web page with call to actions and simplify it as a thought experiment in that way, then you know, you would only strengthen it because, again, you guys got a lot of things right. So.
One question I sort of had watching it was the sense, like, I got a good sense of like intermediate progress. Like you're turning this, and when it's active, it changes things. You push this and that changes. But overall progress was a little hard to tell. It felt like the ending was a surprise. I guess, Mo, did you have a sense while you're in there of if you were close to saving Dave, or if you were just like going to be doing this for an unknown amount of time?
Yeah, I had a sense in a kind of gamer kind of way. I'm like, okay, you know, it's getting more complicated. That means I'm making progress probably. But the ending did come out about in an abrupt way.
Yeah.
Again, kind of a common thing in gaming, but maybe not the best choice, right? Maybe there was a way to show progress or show that they're kind of like disaster relief folks were almost there or something like that, right? Again, kind of plot equity and foreshadowing would help.
So we have we have a room, and in the room we have the water is flowing. So Angie made the 2D animations, and she made the animation if the water is 25% of the room, 50% of the room, 75% of the room, 90% of the room, and each case, if non-water tank exploded, if red exploded, if blue exploded, if both exploded, so it will be on the monitor in the screen. But because you need to focus on the valve and the button, you make
and guess we're super naive. We're like, there's a lot going on, right? So it's hard to know what to pay attention to. But from a design point of view, you want to continue to increase the stakes. You want things to feel more and more dangerous, but also over here have to work towards getting to an end. And how do you connect the two, right? Like if things are getting more and more stable, then I'm lowering the stakes, I'm getting closer to that. That's not the right choice in this case, in my opinion.
Well, and the missing piece was there are rescuers coming. And I think that if I had to add something, it would be, possibly the police or whoever's coming being like, hey, we are, 30 seconds away. You got to keep him safe. And like that extra little thing of, the end is near. And it's just when we sort of talk about the interest curve, like those spikes, one of the things you want to watch out for are there surprises, and are there sort of negative surprises, which is, oh my, it just ended. I didn't expect that. And you can sort of manage that by bringing the guest into the sense of progress. Like, oh, we're in a race. I can see the finish line, so I know that I should go fast now because it's the last stretch. Or there's a rescue is coming. So having that sense of a goal and what success is and how to work towards it helps the guest sort of like have that thing. But overall, I think a really strong use of the space, sound effects, and a little storytelling and making this come together. So
Yeah, I want to do more of it. So
good work.
Team 3.
You guys want to guess, or is one of you gonna be your guess?
I think maybe one of the TAs.
Okay. Either way. Team choice.
Okay, producer, you have to say.
Maybe.
Are you sure? I feel like they can do it.
Okay, maybe one of you can do it. Okay, awesome. Very relieving.
Alexa, refresh the page. Same one for Oh no, wait, no, it's gone. Cool. I will open it up for you. Slide page. We'll see how this works. It does take a little bit.
Oh, man. All right. All right. Do I do anything? Over here.
Oh, actually, here, over here. Turn, if you want to turn around and then you hit that. Hold it.
Whoa. Eggs. All right, we do not want eggs being thrown at us. Yeah. They're throwing eggs at you. Why would you? Yeah. Famous DJ, that's me. All right, eyes for question. No specific notes and colors. Got that. All right, something this, and a whole bunch of different colors. Pink pin. All right, got a little pink thing, and then color. All right, these are work with that. Shout out the words of encouragement to the dancer to send the completed note. Let's go, you guys. Come on.
Yeah,
All
you
right.
have to.
We're gonna be shouting, I guess.
Yes, you have to hype the dancer.
Whoa, feel like a giant thing. All right, whoa, we got. All right, we gotta need some.
It will play when you
So how do I? Ooh, I gotta reach in and stop. Hold that. And we gotta go pink. All right, let's go. Let's do it. Yes. Oh no. No. Oh. All right. Watch this. Hit this one. Got there. Go pink. Pink flip. Let's go.
Yeah, I love it.
Let's do it. Yeah, I love it. Sending notes at the wrong time. They be quiet. Let's go.
This is such a jam.
Let's go.
This is such a jam. This is such a jam.
Yeah, I love it.
Let's go. Right.
You were never wrong, so.
I got some eggs like once or twice. I mean once.
Yeah, you're supposed to get more eggs than that. And like booing.
Well,
We
the
worked a
world
lot
did
on
not tell me every now and then fail
Right.
to like make it more exciting. No, I mean let's sort of like talk about this. One, the setup now is a lot like I love the little intro of the story. Like I've got this there's a character, and it's really simple. You got 2D, like just art, and the character's like, I need your help. And it's a really nice way to set up the relationship, that there is someone who needs my help, and then you tell me how to help them. And because once you get into the world, like I'm a little bit lost on, like, is the person who needs help the one who's spinning in the middle of the dance floor? I'm sort of like, doesn't really need my help. Like he's doing a pretty good job. In fact, once we get going, he's spinning at a really impressive rate, and I'm kind of shocked that people throw eggs at him for this, and I'm wondering, like, what are the standards of dancing in this world that, like, if he slows down just a little bit, like, people get really upset. But the world does a great job of setting that up and making me understand. In fact, the eggs happening at the beginning really helped me understand the eggs later, because honestly, if this world didn't have the intro, I would have been really confused. Like eggs showing up randomly. I mean, like, who has fried eggs in a dance club? And then they throw them at me. And so it's weird if I think about it, but the context of the beginning, like, kind of explains the weirdness. Like, people throw eggs, and I don't want eggs being thrown. And so it's just a sort of an example of the world building. And you can kind of have weird things happen, but if the world sort of like accepts them and understands them, like, it can bring the weirdness down, and I can sort of like work with the world. You have this exciting mechanic, which is shouting, and I'm guessing from playing it, it's a volume activated thing. Is that right? So it's not detecting speech; it's detecting volume.
Yeah, any words or
yeah,
sounds.
Which isn't it like I had a realization that I have to be quiet in between, because if I shout just because I'm like getting into the world, it's going to send the wrong note. And so there's definitely a little, like, I wanted a mechanic which is, I'm ready to shout, let's sort of like basically activate the microphone now so it happens. But I really, really love the idea of bringing voice into this, because this world is doing a very difficult interaction, which is making me feel like a DJ. And I love the idea that you brought in voice, because the DJ sort of like amping up the crowd, shouting, and bringing that piece in really does elevate the guest experience. Like, if this was just like stopping the turntables and then like pushing a button, it's a very different world. And so you've got this fascinating sort of mix of like very unrealistic interfaces. Like, there is no world where like these turntables are split into 3 notes and 3 colors, and then audience members request notes, and then like those get thrown into the audience. And so you've got a fairly like mechanical device there, but the audio part brings it much more into the fantasy. And I felt myself like I'm actually holding my hands, so you're doing a lot with my body, and like how I'm posing, how I'm moving, and then what I'm saying. So even though the world has, like I said, a fairly like artificial mechanical system, the way it gets me to move and sort of think and feel matches your fantasy. And so I think when we think about like what the guest does and feels, it's very, very successful. It's relatively simple. I like the simplicity. Honestly, if this were more complicated, I think you could get me there. Like, you could build up to more stuff, but the scope of this felt really good. The thing that I was missing a little bit, I think you might have alluded to it, like, I didn't fail that often. And so I didn't really know how well I was doing. I knew that I was being mostly successful, and part of this was the dancer was like that using that character sort of to show success and progress. It felt like if I had to like iterate this, I would try to make that more noticeable, that he needed my help more, and when I helped, it was clear that it was helping. And so the story of how I was helping and what success looked like, I knew I was being successful because I was getting positive feedback, but from a story perspective, I wasn't quite sure like why those notes helped him, or in the moment why he needed help. I think that's the place I would sort of focus on, like how to make that stuff feel stronger.
Yeah, I think that's kind of right on. I mean, it also speaks to how well the world is staged. Like, the audience felt far away and unimportant, but there and present, and they were crowded around this very important person, and then even more so, the DJ console was like the most important thing. So all those decisions are non-trivial things to work out that you guys worked out really well, and you worked out well through not only the modeling of it, but the lighting of it also worked really well. It was a little unclear watching it, Dave, like when you had the right note procced and the color procced. Like, can you describe that?
So the intro was pretty clear that for me that there was a pink like arrow indicator, which was off to one, sort of in the back. And when I reached my hand out, it would stop the turntable. And so my job was to hold my hands in place to pause it and make sure that the segment with the note I was trying to get lined up with the little indicator.
Okay.
And it definitely, it took a little bit of like, okay, I know what this is trying to do and understanding it to like connect it together. But once I sort of got it, I was able to use it. It was very usable once I knew what it was.
All right. I guess that makes sense. And I actually think, you know, from last week to this week, you guys kind of delivered on this new kind of rhythm game, kind of not rhythm game, but a new kind of interaction that ultimately works well, and a nice way to simplify what it means to DJ. I think that if we talk about the dancer for a second, there's probably some low scope ways to build up that feedback that dancer is giving you, even if you had some simple poses, some of them very basic and just kind of what we would call stepped poses between two poses, or just cutting from pose to pose, and then building up to like maybe a spin at the end where you really get going. The payoff would be amazing, like really enhance the piece. And maybe the other thing is yelling something a DJ really does? Maybe, I don't know, but it seems like maybe there's other things that they do that would be better to kind of put the music out into the world and maybe create a little more authenticity in that interaction. But overall, I think a lot of good decisions and a really strong 2-week world here.
Yeah, and speaking to that idea of like shouting to like send the notes, it felt very much in the world like I was sending the notes, which I liked. But where they went and how they were used, I think is that sort of connection. And if I were like imagining the mechanic evolving, I would sort of want the clarity that the dancer needs something. And honestly, notes are a little bit weird. I would imagine more like beats.
Yeah,
but like,
or drop like a beat.
But the dancer needs something, and sort of like, if I get it wrong, they try to use it, and they stumble. And if I get it right, they use it, and they succeed. And then I could sort of like see building upon that and like adding some complexity. But that last little piece of I really felt strongly that I was preparing something. Like I'm getting ready. I'm sort of putting together what the dancer needs, and then I'm sending it. And I would sort of then focus on how do you make that receiving of the thing really clarify why they needed it and why it was successful. But like I said, even though the mechanic did sort of feel very like artificial in the sense of like it's not a real DJ space, I liked the physicality of it and like how it made me feel in the fantasy. So it was I think a clever use of trade-offs there. So.
Yeah, most of the interactions were like unconventional. You wouldn't really like all the interactions are not really like DJ real life. I think we just focused on delivering the humor and like how to, it's more like it's like a bit rhythm game.
But I think that's the right approach, right? But also finding ways to find what's fun about DJing and getting that in there. So like if playing to kind of like the moment where the beat drops, you probably could have keep doing that for every time we deliver, like just like kind of bringing it silent and then boom, like percussion comes in, right? And like coming up with a mechanic where like the DJ can actually kind of go like this or something, like motion to the dancer or something. Yeah. Who knows, right? Iterative design.
Yeah, and that, like, I think that the evolution sort of gets to the place where right now I feel like I'm half playing a game and half sort of being a DJ, and the evolution would be I'm much more in the DJ space, and the gameplay reinforces the fantasy even more, and it gets to that idea. Like right now, the music doesn't feel as connected to what I'm doing as like I might expect, and that's where the iteration would show up. And I think you get it to a place where the actions I'm making, the need, and all this stuff connects even more deeply into DJ and dance and like a club feel. But like I said, a lot of good scope choices and a lot of good like. It was very playable. So really good job.
Okay, thank you.
And team 1.
Whichever professor would like to play.
Yeah, we'll get him set up.
I think he should be okay. He mostly needs to go forward.
You want him to start it like recenter here? Yeah, and then that way.
It's just the string. The string has been weird for me.
Yeah, it did. Okay, alright, we should be good. Did it do it? The dial, it did progress, but nothing changed. Then you're probably good then. My hands are, you guys see the teeth, right? Yeah, we're not frozen, are we? Go ahead and quit. Open up the menu bar, yeah. And then if you go all the way to the bottom, mom's coming. Alright, we good? Yeah, you're good. You walk all the way to it.
Oh, honey, you have to finish your homework before I come back. I will buy your favorite ice cream. But if you don't finish it, you know what I mean.
Oh my god, I have to focus. I want the ice cream.
Honey, don't get distracted. Just do your homework. I will be back soon.
Yeah, I'm seeing the class. Here, actually, if you want to.
Bigger room.
To finish your homework before I come back. I will buy your favorite ice cream. But if you don't finish it, you know what I mean.
to focus. I want the ice cream.
Focus.
Honey, don't get distracted. Just do your homework. I will be back soon.
It is quite fun running all over this. Focus.
Honey, you know what I'm going to do if you don't finish it.
All right, I think I knew what to do. We just needed to reset. The gaze indicator works really well. I love the beginning of this piece, the way it's staged, because you kind of have the boy over here, the mom over here, and you're in between. So that's kind of telling us it's your job to keep this guy on track without actually directly telling us, and so all that works well. It was really fun to run around the room and throw stuff. It felt good. Even the really physical stuff, like the speaker and the TV, you kind of taught me that's the mechanic, right? I pick it up, I throw it. So while I might not have done that at first, I didn't care about the TV, I didn't care about the speaker, we're gonna throw them. And I kind of wanted more of that, like more physical objects. I'm out of breath, like I said, that's a good sign. I think that, again, like the size of the room felt really good. It didn't feel like you were pushing that too much. It felt good to run from one side of the room to the other, grab the thing, and kind of chuck it.
Yeah, I mean, watching it, like, just what has a ton of clarity that, like those giant laser beams out of the eyes, like seeing it at first, it feels super weird. Like this kid's like a little lighthouse of like, just like beams, but they tell the story really well. Like it was really clear watching you play it that, that watching his gaze and like having to like get rid of that distraction was like on one side, like completely unreal and super weird. Like no one has little like message bubbles float out of the world, and then your laser beam eyes lock onto them, and then you can't do homework, right? Like that little fiction doesn't make any sense. But within the world, it's everything. Like it's totally believable. And what the thing you need to do, which is grab that thing and throw it, like another thing that just doesn't happen in the world. But
that's how I parent, though. I just like throw things.
But it's very believable, and it creates this like nice, simple world where the rules are like easy to understand and easy to work with, and reinforce the story and reinforce the need of the child and all that stuff. Like the little things, the audio was a little hard to hear in terms of voiceover. It felt like at times the way the voices were recorded and the music were like kind of like in the same space, and it was like a little hard to like pull those apart. But we didn't need too much of it. It's like, you need to do your homework. I want ice cream. Ice cream is like sort of reinforced. Were there ice cream posters on the wall? Is there, like you're doing a little world building already. Like this kid loves ice cream, and it's like the thing that motivates him in life. And like we sort of get that. And I love the moments. I think the moment of the speaker is like points the way for this world of like, if I would iterate it, is like having more and more surprising moments of that, where it's like, I'm now distracted by this other thing. It's like, oh my God, really? That thing? And then you rip it off and throw it away, and it sort of almost escalates in its weirdness, but the world owns it and like those things happen. Like just the idea that the world is sort of conspiring against this kid to like distract him so he can't finish his homework and can't get ice cream, but you're here like defending his right to ice cream, and like just things like that absurdity just going and going. I mean, the ending already owns a little. Like ice cream pours out of the sky, and like the kid is like, there you go. And I think it's like I said, it just sort of speaks to simplicity in the storytelling and kind of like really just using that simple idea and owning it, and the world just like saying that is what we're doing, as opposed to going for subtlety in storytelling. Like sometimes just being simple and clear and bold can be very effective. Now it sort of pushes you more into comedy, but I think you guys lean into that really well. Like a lot of strong choices. I wanted to play. It felt like a world that you could, keep doing what you're doing and make it bigger and better, and it would feel bigger and better.
Yeah, I think there's opportunity to keep raising the stakes. You start off with these text messages, and maybe that's kind of like your thread through it all. But more speakers, bigger TVs. What else can you put in there for me to like? It became about the destruction in some ways. Like that became part of the fun, and you kind of, like I said, you kind of coaxed me into that in a really good way. So I would just keep pushing that. Like, how crazy can you get with this?
I kind of want you to be at the end, and you completely destroyed the whole house.
Yeah, and the mom walks in and is like, here's your ice cream, bud.
Yeah, and it's like, I guess we won. Like, we finished homework and got the ice cream. I love the idea of the homework sort of like being a progress meter. It did feel at the end a surprise that it ended. And I would wonder if there's a way to elevate the sense of progress that the homework and that focus is doing, just so that there's a stronger connection between the guest and what they're doing, but also that goal at the end of how close they are. I don't know, Mo, if you were aware of when the world was going to end, or if it also surprised you.
Well, it wasn't believable that this kid was doing homework because there were so many distractions. I mean, the believability is not of importance in this world, I think, right? I mean, yes, you could have maybe some sort of progress, if there was a way to show us that he was making advancements in his homework, and that might require spacing out the distractions, but I like how rapid the distractions were as well. So you have to balance those, or figure out a way to keep the distractions coming, but also keep him kind of focused.
A technique that's often used is, a lot of times your first instinct is to give me sort of like a continuous sense of progress. Like we are, 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%. But the way people really interact with that stuff is more discrete. It's like, I'm done with my first book. Now I'm on to my second book. I'm on my last book. If I can just finish this last book, then we'll get ice cream. And so having sort of a more discrete sense of like, this is the last thing, whether it's the last stretch of the race, the last book, that's a lot more human than you are 95% of the way there. You can tell by the meter that's been filling up. So that I think that's where I'd push out iteration as well. Is like, you've got a nice metaphor of going through homework. It would be, I think, a bonus for the interest curve of knowing that this is the last thing I need to get through, and then you can really amp up the distractions and sort of like have that feel like almost like an end stage and stuff like that. But a lot of great choices.
Yep, great work.
All right, last team of the morning. Congratulations. A lot of really great work. I mean, the world's great variety, but one thing, I just want to applaud you for like letting us play the worlds. And I think it is going to be a thing that we do more. We'll talk about that this afternoon, but just how guests experience it, and especially for me and for Mo and for the other faculty who come in and like see your worlds. These worlds are one thing to see on screen, but another thing to do in person. And it's a thing that I appreciate, and I really like the sense of like, what is it like to be in here, do these things, and what is the guest feeling and thinking, and getting a chance to be that guest is an important part of that. Collect your notes. You'll submit those as part of the last piece of the assignment. But for now, it's lunchtime. I think we're going to have people come back at around 3, because we'll have a decent amount of stuff to talk about mostly about the next assignment. So that's what we're going to be doing this afternoon. So afternoon sessions will be even worlds, but come back around 3. Come back at 1:10 and watch the worlds if you want to like see what the rest of your class is doing. But the main thing is come back at 3 to get the announcements about round 2 and next steps. But overall, great work, everyone. Get some lunch, and we'll have another afternoon coming up.